Alrighty. Today on the T Podcast, we're talking with Brandi Ortiz, Executive Director of Acadiana Queer Collective, and then we have Peyton Rose Michelle, Grand Marshal of Pride Acadiana. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. It's going to be talking about the fourth Pride celebration and third parade. We're going to be talking about the significance of it, the support, how can you support, who's it for, and what can people expect from the event. So stick around and enjoy the show. Alrighty, so before we get started, let me go ahead and tell you about our presenting sponsor, Chase Group Construction, because this is developing Lafayette. So if you want to build something or renovate it, check them out, chasegroupconstruction.com. They take the lead and become your one point of contact for the entire design build process. So like design build, like if you want to design it and build it at the same time with the same company, they do that. They have a diverse portfolio of projects that range from medical centers, popular restaurants, and multi-unit shopping center developments. We're no stranger to multi-unit shopping center developments. They're everywhere. They probably have built a car wash or two, I'm sure, maybe a Mexican restaurant. They built Fat Pat's in Broussard and Bridge. So check them out. Really good local company, and they are supporting us. So check them out and support them. All righty. So let's get the show started. Peyton, Rose, Michelle, you've been here before. And then, Brandi, I think this is your first time.
It is my first time.
So go ahead and I'll let Brandi start. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Brandi Ortiz. I am a mom to two kids, the executive director of Acadiana Queer Collective, and I've lived in Lafayette since about 2010.
All right, same, 2010. Yeah. All right, Peyton, you go ahead, even though you've been here before, but go ahead and introduce yourself because I'm pretty sure people may have just been listening for the first time.
Absolutely. My name is Peyton Rose Michelle. I use she, her pronouns. I'm executive director of Louisiana Trans Advocates, and this year I'm blessed to be the Grand Marshal of Pride Acadiana.
All right, all right. Well, it is good to have you guys in here, and it's also really cool to have two of my leadership classmates here because that was a wild year. And from what I've heard so far about the current class, we still remain the best class ever.
That's what I hear.
I think that's what every class says anyway. So, but I'm going to stand by the best class ever. So, so what are we talking about today? We have the Pride celebration, Acadiana Queer Collective's Pride celebration. It's the fourth annual.
It is the fourth annual.
But the Pride Month has not been proclaimed in Lafayette for that amount of time.
I don't think we've ever had a mayor-president proclamation.
Have we? Or
No,
have we not?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so it's never happened
I don't
yet.
think we have. We've got some of the city council
Okay.
that has signed at least the last 4 years.
All
Yeah,
right.
so the city of Lafayette proclaims Pride Month, but also so does the president. So, I think we celebrate no matter who cares.
Obviously, right. I mean, that is the case for most people that want to do something important. They're going to celebrate it no matter what. So, so tell us a little bit about this celebration and what it means. Obviously, it means a lot. So, Brandi, if you want to take that.
So, I mean, you hear everybody talk a little bit about the history of Pride. It started in the 60s, and it was a riot, and it was really a riot against police violence against the LGBTQ community. And so what we have now is a little bit more of joy as a revolution. Life can sometimes be hard, and that's, sometimes in the 60s it led to a riot, sometimes it's legislation, and so what we've chosen here in Acadiana is more of a joy as a form of resistance.
Yeah. So it started out as a against police brutality, essentially.
Yeah, police were going into gay bars and arresting people for the crime of being gay. And when you're a neighborhood, you have a relationship with the police, and there was a time where that wasn't the case, and it fluctuated. But around the time period Brandi's talking about, it got so bad, police were, I guess, harassing, gay folks in gay bars, and when you're just trying to be yourself in your own place, and then someone comes in and arrests you for it. That's pretty angering, so you got to do something about it.
Yeah. So, and you guys created Pride, or essentially.
So Pride came as a anniversary celebration of those first Stonewall riots. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It all formed its own self. I mean, the original Pride flag is different than the one we have today. It had more colors, and each of them meant things. Like the green meant nature, and it was all about just like life, I guess. It's definitely changed and morphed. There have been different issues, like our world dealing with HIV. And killing a whole generation of gay and queer people. And then there was marriage equality, and then marriage equality happened. And now we're dealing with, the attack on trans youth predominantly. So I think that's just kind of like the macro, like Pride has shifted and it's become different things. And like Brandi says, today, I think a lot of prides across the world are focusing on joy more so than ever, because we all, not just queer people, we all need more joy in our lives. And I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I think we all need more joy, because let me just tell you, the world is in a wild place. Shira Moran says, hey, my Lit 36 friends. Hey, Shira.
Hey, Shira.
So, you mentioned the flag. I guess I want to talk about that a little bit more. So, the original flag, the rainbow flag, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, the flag has changed.
It has. The original rainbow flag, I believe it had 8 colors.
I think it was 8.
Don't quote me.
There's pink.
I'm not a historian.
It definitely was rainbow and pink.
Yes, exactly. There were multiple color variants, and then I think because flags were expensive to make or something like that, they shrank it down. Maybe colors, I don't know. I'm not a historian. And, it's changed. Like today's flag, we use the Progress flag, which is like the rainbow flag with the trans colors and black and brown. And we use that flag today. And this year's Pride flag even has a intersex symbol in the diamond, I guess you could call it, the arrow. Because, LGBTQ plus stands for all of these different acronyms plus all of these other ones. And so the Pride flag has just kind of been morphing to include as many community members as possible. The trans colors for trans people, the black and brown for our black and brown and BIPOC community members that face higher rates of trauma in every regard. And then the intersex symbol for intersex people, which are so often forgotten about, especially with all this legislation that deals with like sex. They define sex as binary, male and female, but it completely erases intersex people, which are more common than people think.
You don't know the percentage right off bat?
No.
Yeah, I didn't even prepare you for that.
I do know that it is such a high, it is so high, whatever the percentage is, it is so high that I have known about it my whole life.
Okay.
Before I was even doing any advocacy work. Like that was just like, oh yeah, sometimes people are born, and then I work in animal medicine, like that's my day job. So like animals all the time, you're like, oh yeah, that one's, look at it, it's got both parts.
So is the scientific word hermaphrodite?
I think the scientific word is more like intersex.
Okay.
I think hermaphrodite was, the science has evolved too, you know. I think that was probably a science word back in probably like the 60s or something.
Oh, yeah,
older word.
that's a word that I've heard a lot growing up.
But, you know, so much queer science and medicine has happened over the years. Like in the Holocaust, they killed this doctor that was doing a lot of research on trans people and their like trans medical needs.
Yeah.
He was dealing and learning more about hormones and all of these things, and the Nazis destroyed everything he did. You know, and then, like I said, there was HIV care. It's all morphed, you know, and I think that's a really important thing to remember. And I think now we're learning more about intersex people and how it is not just X, Y, and XX. It is so many other things. Even people with those binary sets of chromosomes have different expressions of them, and I'm not a doctor, but it gets like really crazy when you talk more and learn more about it.
Well, I have some more questions about the pride flag and everything else, and it gets a little bit more on the controversial side. So I'm gonna wait till after our next sponsor to talk about that. But so Brandi, I want to talk to you about the position that you have now as executive director of Acadiana Queer Collective. You got that towards the end or the beginning of this year, right?
Yes, January.
Yeah, January. So like I was like, yeah, not end of this year, end of last year, beginning of this year. What does that mean for you in that position? What does that position do in regards to pride in Acadiana? And how does that position fit into your life of animal care and all that good stuff? Like there's got to be a lot of moving parts.
So the organization itself is pretty new. We formed in 2022, and what we found is that we had so many things we wanted to tackle that just like as a board and a group of volunteers, we needed just like a person to drive that focus and make the things happen.
Because it is a nonprofit, right? Yeah.
It is a nonprofit, yes. And so Pride is really but a piece of what we do. It's the biggest, most outwardly facing piece. It's the block party, it's the parade, it's the film showcase. It's not actually probably why most of us are involved in this organization. We all to a single person, all of us care a lot about making sure that the generation that comes behind us has better support, more access to affirming care, more resources, and how to find people who can help you through things when maybe your family or your church isn't there to support you. There's a lot of, you hear a lot of talk about how the South is a little bit rough for queer people, for people of color. And so what you miss out on is that there are woven in that a lot of stories and people and families and communities that are caring and supportive no matter what. I care for you because you exist. I am here for you because I care for you. And I love you because everybody deserves it and everybody's worth that amount of investment. And so the organization is like our inner smaller work is that stuff. So we have a resource list. We're expanding our health and wellness expos. We are finding ways to connect people, adults or youth, with the resources that can support them through whatever they're going through, with or without their family support. We have, resources to get them connected to people who can support their families if they feel a little bit lost, or just like, hey, I did get kicked out of my church because I accepted my kid for who they are. We can help connect them to other parents and other families. And so that's the bulk of what this organization is working towards. So Pride is, again, a celebration and a joy, but the hard work of it is a little bit more behind the scenes and a little quieter. youth who are in the LGBTQ community are more likely to experience violence, human trafficking, homelessness. There's a lot of really scary things that happen to babies, their children. Like, if there's any way that we can work towards making that less of an issue in our little community here, that's what we're doing.
Okay. How many people are in the organization?
The board is 10, and then there's me as the executive director, and our volunteer list is in the hundreds.
Yeah, yeah. So you guys put on the Pride celebration, and like it's the 4th annual. How much work goes into that? Like, what all is involved in that?
It's a lot of emails.
A lot of emails,
primarily,
of course.
Yeah. So there's gathering talent for the stage and getting permits and contracts that you need to be able to close the streets and have a parade or a sound variant. So a lot of the little nitpicky, fill out this form, sign this paper, pay this fee. And so that probably all starts around January. And then the rest of it just kind of rolls. The volunteer base is really so amazing that this year, people have just picked up different pieces of it and ran with it, and each year that grows. And so it's communication and just communicating with each other. Here's what I'm working on. Here's what I need help with. Here's who I've talked to. It feels a little bit like a machine that is just going to keep rolling and happening.
Yeah.
As long as we're just put a little coal in here and there.
Stoke the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where does the celebration actually take place? Is it downtown?
It's downtown. We close the 200 to 400 block of Jefferson Street for the block party.
Main drag, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the parade is a little bit further. We make a little loop further down Jefferson.
Okay. So how long is a parade roughly?
It's a little less than a mile.
Okay.
So
it's not like a Mardi Gras size, or is it, or close?
it is not.
Okay, so
It is not.
I don't go to very many Mardi Gras parades. I go to one a year, and I'm like, that's all I can handle, because it gets wild. What is it like to go to a Pride parade celebration? I don't think I've ever been. Oh no, actually, I've been in Houston whenever it was happening. And there's no way to get around it. It's everywhere.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you drive anywhere in Houston on the day of the parade, that's it. You're going to the
especially
parade.
in the neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Montrose in the area? Yeah.
Yep. And that's where I'm from. That's
okay.
I grew up right outside of Montrose on right on the edge.
Yeah.
So it is a very different vibe than any other Pride that I've been to, the one that we do here. And so
expand on that a little bit. What do you mean different vibe?
The people who are walking in our parade we have local churches. We have there's local theater groups. I think this year they're Sherwin-Williams T-Mobile employees. And so it's really just a way. It's groups of people who care about this, who want to celebrate that in a parade. I saw some people getting their throws ready because they're tagging us in their pictures that are crocheted, handmade parade throws. And so it's been really cool to kind of watch the parade evolve. This is our 3rd year with the parade.
Yeah.
The first year it was pretty small, and we didn't know what we were doing. None of us have ever thrown a parade before. We've been to some, but it's really just walking and connecting with the community and handing out these adorable, beautiful throws.
Yeah.
One of our sponsors is Crew to Kenai, and so we get a lot of guidance because they throw a good parade. Yeah.
Yeah. They throw one of the more iconic Mardi Gras parades in the area. Okay, Peyton, with Grand Marshal of Pride Acadiana, what does that mean? Is it more than just sitting on a pedestal waving at people? What is that like?
Well, that's the funnest part of it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, for me, it really means that I get to advocate for joy for everyone. My throws that I'm bringing are going to be live roses because I think that...
Because your name is Rose, yeah.
Well, I think flowers bring people joy.
Yeah.
And I just want to be able to spread that, and I could have bought keychains and stuff, and I'm sure keychains bring people joy, but, you know, I just tried to bring what I thought would, you know, bring people joy. But yeah, Pride is amazing. I mean, in addition to the parade, which is going to be, you know, a mini party, there's going to be like 60. There's got a lot of vendors, a lot of people with booths, a lot of people selling crafts, and you know, I think it's an opportunity for queer people and allies to like come out and like meet each other, form those connections, work together, collaborate, build community, because our community here is so splintered. I would say it's hard when you're a new person to the community. It's very hard to like get to find somewhere for you. So I think that's what Pride's about to me. It's about like, you know, opening that door to connection.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. We're going to continue the conversation. I got to get my sponsor in real quick because, you know, bills got to get paid. So the next sponsor, and we've talked with them and mentioned them plenty of times before, Music Academy of Acadiana. Basically, if you want to learn music, whether you're old, young, or in the middle age area, you can learn music there. It's a great school founded by Tim Benson, a UL music school, UL Lafayette music school graduate. The school has been featured on American Idol and The Voice many times. That was really cool. They've won national recognition and are consistently voted as a top music school since 2016. If you want to take classes there, they teach in drums, guitar, violin, saxophone, piano, like literally any instrument. Also, they help you with your voice. So if you want to learn how to improve your voice, and if you want to learn audio production, let's say you're not a front person, you suck at singing, because most people do. Unless you turn the volume up in your car really a lot, then you sound great. But if you're that person, and if you rather do audio production, you can help music sound better by turning up a knob. You see where I'm going with that? So yeah, they make music lessons fun, educational, and to help foster the next generation of musicians and creative thinkers. You can check them out at musicacademyacadiana.com. Alrighty, so Brent Broussard, it's a Lit 36 takeover. Literally, it's like we just need one more person here, and Brent, we should have had you on, man. Okay, so you mentioned the pride flag. So I want to. This is controversial, and I'm not too interwoven in the politics internally of the queer community, because I know there is some. The original pride flag has been a stronghold for some people. They don't want to let go of it, and then you have the new one, the one that's changed and including more. What are your thoughts on that? And basically, I don't know, should I say traditional gays? Traditional queer people? I don't know. Like, what does that look like? Why is there a battle for some people to keep the original flag versus adopting the new one?
I would say, you know, while the queer community tries to move as one, at the end of the day, we're still all not exactly the same.
Yeah.
Trans people and gay people aren't actually that connected, other than we're telling, you know, social norms, you know, to F off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, but other than that, we're not super connected in, like, actually. So I think that's where that comes from. We have different feelings on things. We have different, you know. And also, I think one of the best things about the queer community is that all people can be queer, you know, from every level of status, or every spectrum of status. So I think, you know, I think we're all just so different. I guess TLDR, and we all have different feelings, and I think, you know, the pride flag stood or stands, I don't know, I guess it depends on how you feel individually, but it's more about the LG, maybe even B letters. And I mean, trans people have their own flag. There's a flag for every identity, I think. And yet, when you're doing things, you can generally, I mean, I'm not saying you can only pick one, but, you know, that's kind of how life is. You got to narrow it down to some way when you're doing marketing and stuff.
Right.
So that's why I think the pride flag has morphed to kind of make sure that one symbol continues to represent the community that it's trying to represent. And, you know, not everyone likes change. I get it.
Yeah, no,
Well,
change
and
is
also,
big, yeah.
$30 a flag. I mean, I'm not Samuel Alito's wife. I can only buy so many flags at a time.
Right. So when the flag changes, like, great, I got to buy another flag.
Right. Like, we just, keep working. Got a flag savings account just for when they change. I feel like it's a little bit like art.
Yeah.
If you look at the timeline of the flags, art represents what the artist was going through at the time. And I see that when I look at the timeline of the flags. Who made it? What was their experience? Why are they making a flag? Why does anybody feel moved to make art? And so, I think that's a really cool way to look at the way the flag has changed. Every time I buy one, I buy a different one. You know, like I really do think it's cool to like have a lot of them.
I mean, you're practically wearing one right now.
I am on theme for the celebration this weekend.
Yeah.
Everything that I do kind of comes from a place of love and inclusion. Whether it is my work with this organization or anything else that I do, all of it comes from, I want to make sure that somebody feels like they are loved. And so I'm going to like go out of my way to pick the flag that loves the most people, but that doesn't mean that I love any of the other people represented in other flags less.
Okay. Great response. So I didn't know if you guys knew that where I was going with that. It's controversial because I've seen, I have plenty of queer friends, plenty. And I hear conversations, and some of them lean one way, and it's baffling because we obviously have in the political world right and left. Left typically leans more liberal, and sometimes more extremes, and then right typically more conservative, sometimes really extreme, and then you have the middle. And even in the queer community, there are lefts and rights in it, and it's baffling and also really interesting to hear conversations from so great example, I'm not going to name names, but I have some family that live in New Orleans, and they're gay, and they want to get married and all this good stuff, and it comes from a family who's, I'm going to disclose, if you know who you are, you're going to know that I'm talking about you, but, you're probably not listening. So anyway, his mom is also gay. Well, lesbian? Either way, queer. They're married, but lean a little bit more conservative. And the son and his boyfriend lean a little bit more left because they live in New Orleans. That's where they wanted to be. They were living in Colorado. They lived in, they lived in Houston. And that's why I know about Montrose. We visited them, and it was a wild time. And they moved to Colorado. Then they came back, and we were trying to get them back to Louisiana. And I'm going somewhere with this, trust me. And they kept saying, there's nowhere in Louisiana that's accepting or has more queer people that they can connect with than New Orleans. So I was like, well, I mean, but we like you in Lafayette. Anyway, so going forward a little bit, they're in New Orleans, and we went and visited them during Halloween last year. And I was having conversations with one of them, and he, oddly, him and I just vibed really well inside of a gay bar. Okay, we're on Bourbon Street, just hanging out, and we're talking about. This is gonna just get totally wild, but anyway, we were talking about tons of interesting topics. And the fact that he was impressed, this one particular individual was impressed that me being a straight guy can stand in a gay bar and not feel some type of way. And in talking with him, he comes across almost straight. Like, we were just vibing so well. I'm like, but this guy is like straight homo. Like, this is like legit.
It's almost like things aren't black and white, but in fact a spectrum, a rainbow. And
Oh, wow. Okay. There you go. Great insertion there. So I guess where I want to end up with this is that they have their own varying opinions, even in their relationship, about the community and how the community should be and how they feel like the community is represented and which flag means what to them and, how to treat people. And like the conversations that we have are just so good and very candid. Like I feel comfortable enough to where I can just ask them the most odd questions. Like as a straight man, sometimes I have interesting questions, and I've had you on, and I've had interesting questions, but I'm not a part of that community per se. So I have my own questions, and instead of living life wondering, I wonder enough to ask, and sometimes the answers I get are expected, and sometimes they're not. And it's just weird to go back to the topic anyway of just being so different, and even in the queer community, that it's not black and white, like you said. It's like there's so many different variables of what's accepted and and how they treat people. I don't know. Does that make sense at all? Like what I'm saying?
I think it absolutely does. I think somehow we understand that all white people aren't alike, but we don't understand that all gay people aren't alike. It's like just because someone has a label doesn't mean that everyone within that label thinks the same thing. We're all so different, and I think that's part of what makes the queer community so beautiful, is because we acknowledge how different all of each other are. I think modernly, especially, the differences I think might be more generational, but that's just speculation on my part.
No, I think it's very much generational. Like you have your old gays, as they call them. I've seen on TikTok the old gays. Love those guys.
But we're dealing with different things.
Yeah.
Like the old gays, they saw like literally all of their friends die from HIV.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of them, I mean, I obviously don't have that experience, but I know some of them feel very lucky to still be alive because of how many people they saw die. And I'm sure that changes you, It's like going to war in a way. All your friends are dead or by the end of it.
I remember the early 90s and late 80s being a kid, hearing about HIV and AIDS and all this stuff all the time. And now it's a little bit less, obviously. There's medication that is there. But like, is it as big of a deal still today?
HIV does not kill people anymore.
There you go.
Because of the medication. You can take medication to prevent HIV. You can take it, even if you're exposed to it, you can take a pill to make sure you don't.
But it's not curable, correct? Yet?
I guess there have been some cases that have been cured.
Oh, okay.
I think
They call it
experimental.
remission, right?
Right,
Like cancer, like it goes into remission.
But you can take, if you take a drug, if you take a pill every day, you can be undetectable, which means that if they test you, they can't technically detect the HIV in your system. And if you do something that could transmit HIV, which is a lot less than a lot of people think. It's not saliva or anything like that. But if you do something that could cause transmission, you're not actually going to transmit anything because there's so little of it in your system that it's not moving.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's not a cure, but that's pretty close.
Close, yeah. Man, too bad we can't get there with like cancer. I feel like there's already a cure for cancer and they're just not letting it go. You know, because money. So Catherine Lemoyne says, "Hey, Brandi." She says, "Your hair is so pretty."
Thanks.
Yeah. So obviously, being in the animal community, she has the pet crematory and doing great stuff with that. I need to have her on, but I don't know if she's accepted my invite yet. Catherine, what are you doing? And if I haven't sent you the link, I'm pretty sure I have, but you need to definitely come on.
The tea.
Yes, the tea. There's sometimes I don't have a whole lot of tea to spill, or per se. I love to drink tea. I don't like to spill it. I don't like to commit tea crimes. But you know, anytime I have individuals here that have very controversial, potentially controversial topics, it's there's definitely some tea spilling. So I want to know, what is the main thing that is the most pressing issue for the queer community as of 2024? Like, what are you guys, I mean, obviously you guys are pursuing joy, which I think that is great, but behind the joy, behind the mission, there's also still some fights. And so obviously you are in the political world, and I've seen you on Political Day, so that has been a interesting thing to watch. So what are some things that you guys are seeing today that still need attention and work?
I think the one biggest problem is the lack of education about, the lack of understanding about transgender people. There's been a lot of information that I would say is inaccurate. I guess another word for that is misinformation. There's been a lot of people filling in the voids, which is voids in the brain. I think that's a perfectly natural thing. When you don't know something, your brain wants to figure it out, and it doesn't always do that appropriately.
It definitely does not.
And I think that's what's happening in a really toxic way right now for trans people. People are figuring out the wrong things, and they're having these very scary understandings about trans people. I mean, this year I had to deal with a bill that bans trans people from accessing bathrooms that correlate with their gender identity, as if I am a threat to women by going into a bathroom and peeing and going.
By all evaluation, Peyton, you're not a threat to too many people.
I literally said this at the testimony stand and looked at each of the men on the committee and was like, do you consider me a threat to you? And they all looked at me like, no, not really. But it's... But
obviously there are other people with different body builds and that look maybe more threatening in a sense, but...
Right, but whether the threat is real.
Right, it's perceived.
Right, and I think, it's scary to think that people have such a bad perception of you. Like, I've done nothing to so many people in this world that, like, in the comments will then be like, they will say some vile things. And I'm like, I'm so sorry that you feel that way, because I don't. And I imagine if I did feel that way about people, I'd feel that would be a life I wouldn't enjoy. So I don't know.
I don't work in the political field, and I don't
You're
have all
glad.
of the political knowledge that Peyton does.
Yeah.
But I would go ahead and say that the primary problem that the queer community, and maybe everybody, is a lack of empathy. And I think that confirmation bias, is that the right term? Confirmation bias contributes to that, where you only hear people who agree with you all the time, and then you're like, well, if we agree about 7 things, these other 3 things we must also agree about.
And then you don't.
I think that. I think media literacy falls into that. I don't think. I'm sure you experience this. When you read through comments, people miss a lot of the context that is very clearly stated. So I think a lot of our bigger problems kind of come from those little bubbles: the lack of empathy, the not seeking to understand, and the just the other people. We're all screaming into the void on the internet.
Yeah, I know. And some people have echo chambers. And, you know, obviously on political day, and there was another day, I forget, it was the day that we were at the First Horizon Tower, and we had one of the professors from UL come in and show us the spectrum of political biases and leanings, and knowing that on each side, left and right, on the extremes, there's only maybe 7% of those people that exist, and they're the loudest. But the rest of the people in the middle almost feel as if that is the going standard. That's what people should expect. That's what people need to fight for. And sometimes it's not. A lot of times it's not, because it's so loud. That's the only thing you hear. But then you have where most people fall is kind of in the middle, where they just want peace and they just want people to be happy and leave people alone. And you do your thing and I'll do my thing. But, you know, you just have those things. I guess in social media has not helped with that. We talked about that also that day. Is social media has heightened the echo chamber, the confirmation, I guess, bias you mentioned, where you pretty much convince yourself that what you believe and what you know is the only thing that's correct and right. It's wild.
Yeah,
One of the things that struck me about the day that we were in the First Horizon building is how surprised people were in the room that the survey says that they would consider violence to protect their perceived threat or their rights, or like that they would consider, like any kind of threat, they would consider violence. Having been on the receiving end of, you know, social media comments, because I manage all the social media for the organization, and emotional people and their pets that are ill, also the same sort of reactions. Yeah, I'm not surprised that people feel threatened, can't sit in the discomfort or work it out, and are immediately like, yes, violence, that's the answer. It's real quick to talk yourself into that, to feel so scared, so backed into a corner that like that's what you'd go for.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen that over the past decade, more or less in the past 5 years, that people have resorted to violence more than sitting down with somebody and just having a conversation that may be awkward.
And like, maybe what are we all doing wrong in the ways that we serve each other that makes somebody feel like they don't have anywhere else to go?
Yeah, the thing I'm told about talking about, because I talk about trans stuff all the time for my job, the thing I hear from people outside of our community is that they feel so afraid to ask questions, and I think that really plays into it. It's like, if you're not even paying attention to other ideas, but when you do, you can't explore them comfortably, so that lack of comfort boxes you into to not asking, or you ask someone that has the same opinion of you. You know, we can't really argue these days either, is something else I think is a problem. Like, arguments online are impossible, and in person, I feel like I hear about a lot of arguments, especially politically, that end in, I'm just not going to talk to that person.
Or blocking them and ending that perspective.
And I get that. Sometimes that feels like the best option, but I don't know if I feel like that's the world God created for us as a spiritual being, as a spiritual person. Like, I think God wants us to all talk to each other generally, at least to be respectful.
Yeah.
And, you know, be kind and share if we need if someone needs us to share, and I don't think that's the world we live in right now.
Mm-mm.
And I think what's really scary to me is that a lot of people that claim they're doing God's work are also responsible for that. But that's a different conversation.
That's a quick different conversation. that's one that can go a little longer and make the seat feel a little itchy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you mentioned being a spiritual being, and last time we had you on, it was quite interesting to know that you come from a religious background and you still are participating in that religious experience.
I went to church and got communion Wednesday while I was in D.C. by accident, and it was a great experience.
Wait, what? You by accident?
Well, I went to the church.
Okay,
in
not
DC
but you didn't trip into the church. I'm like, oh, communion fell in my
I
mouth.
went to the church, but I didn't realize there'd be service.
Okay.
And I realized there was a communion service. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to be here for communion. It was the National Basilica of Immaculate Conception, I think is what they call it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I had to go witness the beauty of it all, and then I realized
Was it really tall and airy
it's
and
the
echoey?
second tallest building in D.C.
Wow.
The first is the Washington Monument.
I have not been to Washington D.C. I'd like to go, but I don't know. I don't know the first thing I do. I guess I'd want to go see Abraham Lincoln. I don't know.
That was the Lincoln Memorial remains my favorite. But right now they're building a museum around it, and it's ugly because doing stuff.
Is the lake still there? The one with the
The reflecting pool.
Yeah, the reflecting pool. I was trying to think of the name. I was gonna freeze for a second. So we are at 46 minutes. I don't want to go too long because it's lunchtime, and I don't know if you guys are hungry because I know he was asking me for something to eat before we started, and he's just sitting patiently in the corner, and I appreciate that. He's eaten 2 bags of Doritos already.
Spicy Doritos.
Spicy Doritos, and he's drank 2 bottles of water. So he's definitely consuming. But is there anything that we want to leave off on? Obviously, we talked about the Pride celebration, the parade. We talked a little bit about the significance. I guess we can talk about who's it for and how can people support and what can people expect?
I think it's for everybody.
I would totally agree.
I think that the way to find yourself in situations where you're talking to people who you can learn from, whether it's about queer issues or otherwise, is to go and spend time with them. We are about to throw a cool party downtown, and it's going to be fun. And I have not left this event without making at least 3 new friends every year. And so whether you are a part of the queer community or not, this event is absolutely for you.
Yeah, and it's completely free. So, like, I think anyone that thinks they can come without committing violence is totally welcome to come. And I think that they should come and see, like, what real life queer people do in their natural environment.
The natural,
I think it's so, like, last year I cried because it was so beautiful how, like, I don't know, like, it was hot. There was free water everywhere. Literally everyone I spoke to was like, are you drinking water? Like, you need to be hydrating. Like, the amount of care everyone was showing for one another and the openness there. Everyone was frolicking around, living their lives, listening to the music, dancing, like, it just felt like such a joyful event. I mean, even the cops were having a good time last year. I think, it's like, I think anyone should come and witness the beauty of it all, especially if they think something different, I don't know. I just think it's a great time. I mean, it's so fun.
You mentioned vendors. Are there any vendors that the majority of the Lafayette Parish may know?
Oh, gosh, probably.
I mean, there's so many.
Is there sausage at this parade?
So we try not to do too much food because there are so many restaurants downtown that
Yes.
are already doing such a great job. There's definitely snowballs.
Okay.
So we'll have snowballs. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool vendors, and now that you've put me on the spot, I can't think of anybody.
Yeah, you'll see
embarrassing.
some of the bigger churches in Lafayette. You'll see Walmart. You'll see so many. I think like advocacy groups or public service groups that do different things around the community. You'll see people that do stuff around the state too, which I think is cool. And you'll see, Lafayette citizens or surrounding, Acadian citizens that that make cool stuff like stained glass goods and all kind of things. And, you can come and look at it all.
Yeah.
Maybe buy it.
So before we go, kind of in the same vein of the celebration and just historical news, I guess, in a sense of social media with celebrations. When it comes to decency, what does that look like for someone that has not been to the celebration? Because other cities have notoriously been a little bit more free. New Orleans is probably pretty free because I've seen naked people riding bikes through the city.
Well, that's normal for New Orleans.
That's New Orleans. Yes,
On a
that's normal.
Tuesday.
Yes.
It's family friendly.
It is family friendly. For the people that we're responsible for bringing downtown, so the people who have signed up to participate in the parade, anybody up on stage, the vendors. There's there's language in those guidelines like nothing vulgar, nothing indecent. We are on a public street.
Yeah.
It is still a public property, so we're all following the same laws.
Yeah. I didn't see anything indecent last year. I saw a couple shirtless people, but it wasn't.
Shirtless is fine. I mean, you see
wasn't
that at the pool.
Right. It wasn't like,
Because
it was hot.
400 degrees outside.
Yeah, you're trying to cool off. You pour some bottle on your wet shirt or something. There's nothing crazy.
Is there a lot of fishnet?
I haven't seen
you
it.
know,
You know what?
probably
There
more.
might be this year because the
Okay.
theme is glam rock.
Yes.
So this might be the fishnet
That
year.
is the fishnet capital. Of
Yeah.
So everyone can wear their cowboy hat and fit in.
Yes.
Okay, man. Wear the bandana too, looking like what's the guy's name? I think it was the lead singer of Poison or something like that.
We're not here to police what you wear.
Okay.
We just want you to have fun and stay hydrated.
Okay, but
It is maybe slightly more, if not as clothed as Festival International.
and you know what? And if you like Festival International, you should like this because Festival International. Let me tell you, that is some sights.
Yes.
That is some sights.
Yeah.
This will just probably a little bit more colorful.
Yeah, and this one's during the day, so it's
Right.
It ends at 5. So it's not craziness doesn't
Yeah.
occur.
Because at 9 o'clock, that's some stuff. Some crazy stuff typically happens everywhere, even at Walmart. 9 o'clock, it's wild stuff. Well, this has been great. There's a lot of other things that we probably could have talked about and made the seats itchy, but I like having you guys on, and obviously you're my classmates, so I respect both of you 100%. And I love talking with you guys. You provide a perspective that I don't always get to be around, except for whenever I go to New Orleans or whenever they come to Lafayette and we hang out on the back patio. I love gay stuff. I love gay stuff.
I do too.
I love the memes. I love some of the I guess the vocabulary. I don't think we'd have the vocabulary that we have today without the queer community. And I've seen people in super conservative situations use some of that vocabulary, and I just kind of giggle, and I'm like, that is the queer community's doing there. But hey, that was not in the Bible. That word is not in the Bible. But hey, whatever. Yeah, I love you guys, and I appreciate you. And when is the event? Is it this
It
weekend?
is Saturday.
Wow, so tomorrow. Good Lord.
June 29th,
Yep.
Yeah.
9 to 5.
9 to 5.
Last weekend of June.
Yeah.
Crazy. We're already over halfway through the year.
It's just flown by.
Yes, it has. So this is the month for you guys, and I hope it's a good one. and have fun. And if you guys that are listening, want to go out there or watching, check it out. It's going to be great, I'm sure. And so with that, you guys have a great weekend. Is there anything you want to mention? Another website is acadianaqueercollective.org. You can check that website out. I'm pretty sure all the events and everything there are listed. Other than that, is there anything else before we head out?
No, but I hope we see everybody there and that they get to experience what a beautiful event this is.
Yeah, and stay hydrated, literally.
Yeah, because it's been real hot. Last year was the hottest year on record, and this year is shaping up to be another hottest year on record.
Yes.
It's stupid.
It's almost like something changing and warming.
I can't remember. Is it not the climate?
No, I don't know.
I love having the news guys, the weather people in. I always ask them, do you believe in climate change? And their responses are always so great because Rob Perillo doesn't believe in climate change. He believes in the data. And then you got Dave Baker, who said he does believe in climate change. So it's wild, and I love it. So anyway, y'all have a great weekend. And I'm pretty sure we'll see you guys around, if not sooner rather than later, maybe next year. So
You'll see us Saturday, so it's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. All right, y'all have a good one. All right, guys, that is it. We'll see you on the next episode. I don't even remember who I have scheduled for next Friday, but we have somebody. I don't know. Anyway, y'all have a good one, and stay safe.